the messenger for this purpose. So we're going to start in the A block. Cole's going to tee up D-Row first. JD, you can take it off of him, and then Len, and then from there, just make sure you're looking at the messenger, and I will keep the conversation going. All right, are we rolling on everything, everybody? Okay, here we go. You ready, Cole?
Yep.
Okay, 5.
Hold on. You have JD tilt on a touch. He's giving me a lot of headroom.
Can you give me 4 shot again, then? There you go. He's working on it.
Thank you.
What do you want?
That's perfect right there.
Right there. Perfect. Thank you very much.
All right, you can give me Cole's single. Here we go, Cole. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, welcome back once again. Time now for Cubs 360 presented by Miller Lite. I'm Cole Wright at your service. And how about this? David Bodie, happy 27th birthday. We're going to discuss that as well as Bodie's chances of being the everyday second baseman for the Chicago Cubs. But first things first, let's get some introductions out of the way. And you'll hear him for the 16th straight season calling Cubs games. It's the one, the only Len Casper. Len, thanks for playing today. And alongside of Len, it's his 8th season in the booth. His birth certificate says Jim DeShays, but we know him and we love him as JD. JD, thanks for joining once again today. And on the end, well, back in 07 and 08, he led the Cubs to back-to-back division titles, a feat that hadn't been accomplished in 100 years. And it's his Marquee Sports Network debut, Mark DeRosa. D-Row, how's it going, man?
It's going good. How you doing?
I'm doing excellent, and I'm ready to get things down to business because, as we know, news broke on Monday night, gentlemen, that the season could start as early as May, and it would do so in the Grand Canyon state of Arizona, but they would play in front of empty stadiums. And Major League Baseball, they, of course, released a statement a little bit earlier today, and it read as follows. MLB would have been actively considering numerous contingency plans that would allow play to commence once the public health situation has improved to the point that it is safe to do so. Now, the health and safety of our employees, players, fans, and the public at large are paramount, and we are not ready at this time to endorse any particular format for staging games in light of the rapidly changing public health situation caused by the coronavirus. So, gentlemen, when it comes to the season ramping up in May and strictly in Arizona, especially with no fans in the stands, D-Row, I'll start with you. What do you think about this?
I think it's a glimmer of hope, to be honest with you. I saw it come out last night, and I know everyone's first reaction is to just attack. And I get it, but can we let it breathe for a second? I'm sure the Players Association and the Commissioner's Office and everyone involved is going to work with the CDC, federal government, whoever they need to talk to do this right. I don't think you necessarily need to be first. You need to be right. But at the same time, man, guys have played with nobody in the stands before. A lot of the spring training, early games, winter ball, Arizona Fall League. So I don't think it would necessarily be that difficult for players. I just look at it as, give me a little bit of positive news that I can see baseball on the horizon and I'm in. I know a lot has to be worked out. To expect guys to walk away from their families for 4.5, 5 months, I think is a little crazy, but I'm sure that they'll dive into all of this.
Yeah, I'm with you, Dero. It is a glimmer of hope, and it would be wonderful to see it happen. The idea that it was, they'd be able to roll it out by the end of May, early June.
Hey guys, can you hear me, Malik? We're going to stop down real quick. Sorry about that, guys. We're hearing some extraneous audio. We got to fix that.
Yeah, I'm on a serious lag too.
We're hearing some.
How was I? I thought it was really good.
You nailed it.
I thought you nailed it.
Hey, Cole, can you just give us like a 10 count?
Yeah. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Heaney here. Kevin Dusold.
Are you guys hearing that playback? There's a big delay. Are you guys hearing that, or are you guys all good?
I'm hearing some.
I seem to be good.
I'm hearing
Good.
Cole fine.
You guys are hearing Cole fine. Great.
DeRosa's new, but he's calling in on one thing.
And nobody has a tablet and a computer and or phone on their vMix open, right, guys? So JD, you only have your okay, cool. And nobody has a tablet and a computer and or phone on.
Yeah, I'm hearing it again there, dude.
Yeah, I hear that feedback. Now I hear, Malik, what you just said.
Power everything off.
Yeah, I hear that feedback. Now I hear Malik, what you just said.
Just be a monitoring issue.
Give us a couple minutes, boys. We'll figure this out.
Yeah, I'm hearing a mix minus comeback on my end too.
Do the same thing where we have Cole do a 10 count.
Cole, can you give us a 10 count?
Yep. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The same thing where we have Cole do a 10 count.
Cole, can you give us a 10 count?
Yeah,
Hey, Malik, I'm getting that same.
Use your teams as well, and then do it again.
Cole, can you give us a 10 count?
Hey, Malik, I'm getting that same. Use your teams as well, and then do it again.
Okay, Cole, can you give us a 10 count?
This is a fresh 10 count. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, Cole, can you give us a 10 count?
This is a fresh 10 count. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Yeah, I'm hearing all this stuff back.
Someone has something open. It's not on the team's end.
Hey, Kevin?
Santini's mic is unmuted. Suzanne's mic is unmuted. Who else is unmuted? So, Kevin, you're unmuted.
It just went. Something just happened where that sounds a million times better.
Okay, let's try it again, Cole. Give us a 10 count.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, it's gone.
What was that?
It's the way we're monitoring.
Yep, and for some reason, I think it was Santini's phone. His phone was open.
That's a shocker. Run a lap, Mike.
My.
All right. Hey, JD, just a little bit. Let's try and center you up a little bit more. Kevin, we're going to try and center up JD just a little bit more. That's better. Way better. Thank you. All right, here we go, guys. Kevin, you good recording?
I am rolling and streaming. Here we go.
Okay. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, it's time for another Cubs 360 presented by Miller Lite. I'm Cole Wright at your service. And David Bodie, happy 27th birthday. We'll talk about that, plus the chances that he's the everyday second baseman for the Chicago Cubs once the season finally gets underway. But until then, let's get down to business with a few introductions. It'll be his 16th season on the call for the beloved Chicago Cubs. It's Len Casper. And at his side today as well, his 8th season in the booth as the tandem pair. There he is. His birth certificate says Jim Deshaies, but we know him as JD. And he's making his Marquee Sports Network debut. Back in 07-08, he led the Cubs to back-to-back division titles for the first time in 100 years. And here he is, ladies and gentlemen. It's Mark DeRosa. D-Ro, thanks for playing today, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, it's a pleasure to have you on today. Absolutely. And let's get down to business, guys, because we know that news broke on Monday and the season, it could start as early as May, but it could be in front of empty stadiums and it could be solely in Arizona. Now, Major League Baseball, they released a statement which reads as follows. Now, MLB has been actively considering numerous contingency plans that would allow play to commence once the public health situation has improved to the point that it is safe to do so. Now, the health and safety of our employees, players, fans, and the public at large are paramount, and we are not ready at this time to endorse any particular format for staging games in light of the rapidly changing public health situation caused by the coronavirus. So, D-Ro, what do you think about the season ramping up as early as May and doing so in Arizona in front of no fans in the stands?
No fans in the stands is going to be interesting, but guys have been used to this before. Certain spring training sites, winter ball, Arizona Fall League, B Field at 10 a.m. Guys have played in front of nobody but mom and dad and maybe girlfriend and wife, what have you, and have been okay. It's going to be a little bit interesting. I mean, it's a lot different coming up in the bottom of the ninth at Wrigley Field with 50,000 screaming down your throat instead of an empty stadium. But I'm just excited and just look at it like, hey, man, behind the scenes, and JD, Len, you could attest to this, behind the scenes, the Players Association, the commissioner's office is doing everything in their power. I don't necessarily think they need to be first. They just need to be right. But it's nice to know they're working towards some type of getting these guys back out on the field.
Yeah, I'm with you, D-Ro. Obviously, we'd all love to see the game back, and a lot has to happen between now and then. My best guess is it's probably going to be a little bit later than that timetable if they're able to pull this off. But I think all baseball fans, all of us, appreciate the fact that they're working very hard to try to make this happen. There's so many logistical issues to work through. Then you have to deal with game times, trying to play games out in Arizona that would accommodate an East Coast audience. That's probably not the biggest issue out there. Testing obviously has to ramp up. We have to find a way to keep people safe. But there's a lot of smart people working on this, and hopefully, we're able to get back and get back on the field. The game's going to look different. It's going to feel different. But baseball in any form, I think, is going to just be welcomed with open arms by so many fans and so many people who are starving for a little bit of normalcy in their lives.
Yeah, I agree with both D-Ro and JD that just the fact that they are trying to figure out a way to make Major League Baseball happen here in 2020. The good news is I don't have to figure it out. As I sit here and go through all the logistical concerns with travel, with testing, with hotels being open and hotel workers being available to be there every day. All of those things need to be sorted out, but there are a lot of really smart people. And quite honestly, what are we all doing right now? We're sitting in our homes and not doing a whole lot during the day. So they have time to try to plan out for all the contingencies, all the potential unintended consequences. I think it's worth a shot. And the one thing about the Jeff Passan ESPN.com article right at the very end, he noted that this idea is important because the alternative possibly could be no baseball at all. So that's why I think this is a really important thing to at least consider.
Absolutely. And Len, like you said, what are we doing right now anyway? We're sitting around doing a whole bunch of nothing. And D-Row, have you talked to guys around the league and how eager are they to get back to normalcy, being on the diamond playing baseball?
Oh, absolutely. Everybody's dying to get back to normalcy in some form or fashion. I think for me, everything's going to be different for a while. That's just the way it is. But I think this is an opportunity for Major League Baseball. We've been talking about pace of play. We've been talking about all these issues that seem to bother the fans in the commissioner's office. This could be a great opportunity because the season is, like JD said, no matter how it goes on, it's going to look different. Take some chances. If we're going to do the electronic strike zone, which I'm not a fan of, by the way, but if you need to get the umpire out from behind home plate so he's not breathing on the catcher, let's take a look at what that might look like. Let's put Bluetooth in the pitcher's ear and see what that might look like. So I think it's an opportunity for the league to kind of experiment with a lot of different things.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. And I do think that a lot of things will be on the table. I would also say, there's that fine line between trying new things and also keeping guys in their comfort zones because it's not going to be totally normal. And there's going to be a lot of things that will feel very different. D-Row can attest to it. JD can too. Baseball players can be a little fragile mentally, and they're going to have to toughen up and just understand that they're going to go through some things this year that are not normal and are going to be difficult to get through, and we're all just going to have to live with it.
And I think the pitch from the Players Association and from MLB to the players at large will just be the idea of public service. This is taking you out of your comfort zone. It's doing something very different. But there's a greater good here that we're trying to reach out to. A big issue for the players, of course, is going to be, are they sent to Arizona if this comes off? Do they go to Arizona? Do they live in some kind of a bubble without their families? And if it's a 3 or 4 month period of time, like Passan indicated in his article, that becomes a challenge for the families because nobody wants to leave their family behind, in a scary moment like this. But perhaps, there's a way where it starts under one set of circumstances, and then as the country heals, so to speak, they get a better handle on this. Maybe they can change the protocol at some point down the line. But again, those are questions that are wide open, and who knows if we'll ever get to that point.
Listen, I don't want to be insensitive. At the end of the day, I wouldn't want to leave my wife and children for 4.5, 5 months and not see them at all. But if my employer is the Chicago Cubs and says you want to make your $5 million or whatever it is that you're currently under obligation contract wise, but you got to go stay in a hotel in Scottsdale, well, guess what? Mark DeRosa will be sleeping in a hotel in Scottsdale for 4.5 months. That's what you signed up for. So I agree with you though, JD. I think you can massage the edges and figure out a way. I think the timetable's a little early, but I get that this is kind of the line of thinking they got to go down.
Yeah, and we talk so much about getting back to normal, but where we're currently at, that could be the new normal. And as we know, baseball, just like life, could be entirely different in 2020. Those visits to the mound, well, they could be out of there, a thing of the past. And there could be some other rule changes coming down the pipe. We'll discuss right here on Cubs 360, presented by Miller Lite. Stick around.
Good job, guys. You're clear. Good stuff. Okay, this segment here, we're going to talk about some of those rule changes that Passan pointed out. So we'll start with JD here. Then we'll go D-Row, and then we'll go Lynn. But we'll start JD, D-Row, and then Lynn, and I'll dictate the conversation. But good job of following everything, you guys, and we're in good shape here for that A-block. Good stuff. You cool in your traffic here, Cole?
Yeah, just coming back in.
Rejoin full screen. Yeah, yep. Rejoin full screen so you can read your copy. Just have your head down and come back up. Introduce the guys real quick, and then you're going to tee up JD first.
Okay, so we're coming back in on the full screen. You got it.
Kevin Dusold, you good?
All good.
Okay, here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Cole, right back with you here on Cubs 360, presented by Miller Lite. And let's have a look at the plans in place. Major League Baseball, they've reportedly discussed having the season start in May and take place entirely in the Grand Canyon state of Arizona. Now, here are some of the changes that could go down. Major League Baseball personnel, including coaches and managers, well, they would sit in the stands 6 feet apart. Of course, that would help maintain social distancing. And when it comes to the strike zone, an electronic strike zone would be implemented to keep umpires at a safe social distance. And mound visits from catchers and pitching coaches, that would be a thing of the past. And doubleheaders, we know that they would help maximize the games on the schedule, but it's like the college days. They would go 7 innings. So let's discuss the guys. They're back, Len, JD, and D-Row. And when it comes to the biggest changes, which ones jump out to you? I'm going to go with you first, D-Row.
You know, what's funny for me, the one that jumps out is the electronic strike zone. I'm not a fan of.
Kevin, shut it down. My fault. We just got caught there. Cole, you're supposed to go to JD first.
Yeah.
Oh, we got caught on camera there. All good. No worries. Let's just do it again.
All good. I was looking at which way it just said rule changes. It's still, it hadn't updated.
Yep.
I just went to D-Row first.
Okay, all good. Here we go.
You said want to go to, you said we're going to do JD first?
Yes.
We got it.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Cole Wright back with you here on Cubs 360, presented by Miller Lite. And let's take a look because Major League Baseball, they've reportedly discussed having the season start in May and take place entirely in Arizona. Now, here's some of the changes that could go down. Major League Baseball personnel, including coaches and managers, they would sit in the stands 6 feet apart, of course, to maintain that social distance. An electronic strike zone, that would be implemented, of course, to keep umpires at arm's length and keep that safe social distance as well. And mound visits from catchers and pitchers, that would be a thing of the past. And doubleheaders, they would help maximize the games on the schedule, except this time around, it's like the college days. They're going 7 innings. So back here with the guys, that's Len, JD, and D-Row. And JD, what do you think when it comes to the biggest change that I just read off? Which one jumps out to you?
Well, to a certain extent, all of them. The electronic strike zone for sure. I'm on board with any number of changes and experimenting with all kinds of things. That's if you're looking for a silver lining in all this, it's an opportunity to look at some different things around the game. I think even the purists who are anti-electronic strike zone, anti-expanded rosters, anti-whatever, are going to embrace whatever you try just because there's baseball back on the field. So electronic umpire for this, absolutely, I'm on board. 7-inning doubleheaders, I think you have to have that. Expanded rosters for sure. You're going to need extra pitching because you're probably not going to ask your starters to go very deep when you get rolling. You're going to need extra bullpen arms. You're going to be playing a lot of games in extreme heat out in the desert. So it'd be a good idea to have a few extra healthy bodies on hand for that as well. Maybe we go back to the old days and we put the catcher like 30 feet behind home plate and he fields every pitch on a hop. Maybe we do that. Or, deaden the ball, deaden the bats, and we go back and play like dead ball era baseball and just slap it around and run the bases.
Yeah, I think for me, the electronic strike zone, I know it would be a great opportunity for them to take a look at it. I love the fact of that's what I miss about the game, building a rapport with my teammates, umpires around the league. I love being able to get into a back and forth and try and manipulate that umpire to not call a certain pitch. That electronic strike zone's got to be dead on for me to buy into something like that. I think the thing I would have the toughest time with are the double headers, man. I wasn't a huge fan of them when I played. You start the first double header 0 for 3, you're staring down an 0 for 7, 0 for 6 day, and you're going home wanting to get, put your hand through the drywall. So that would be the toughest thing for me.
A couple of things. The strike zone being electronic, the fact that they're even considering this leads me to believe that even if we weren't going through what we're going through, that they feel that they're pretty close to that being implemented maybe on a full-time basis. Whether that scares the umpires or not, I think that is coming within the next few years. And if it works, if they do it this year and it works, guys, it's possible we could never see a human call a ball or a strike ever again in Major League Baseball. Extra innings will have to be sorted out. If you're going to do a condensed schedule, there's no chance you're going to play 19-inning games. How about a 12-inning tie? I don't want to put a runner at second base in the 10th inning. I'd rather play 12 innings, and if the game ends and it's 6-6, you move on to the next ball game. Last thing I'll say about all this, guys, if we start the season in Arizona with no fans, and by some great chance on August 15th, the Cubs get to play a game at Wrigley Field in front of 40,000 fans, it'll be the greatest day in baseball history. And think of how excited the players would be to play in front of fans for the first time in almost a year.
D-Row, what do you think? You said you didn't like doubleheaders back in the day. If you had to play doubleheaders coming up in the 2020 season and say the first one went to extra innings, what would be the best way in deciding? We heard what Len laid out there.
Yeah, I think everything should be on the table. I mean, that's just me being an old crusty ball player that didn't want to have a bad day. I mean, you start the first game 2 for 3, you're feeling pretty good about it. If they expand rosters, maybe you're not playing the second half of the doubleheader, or they're matching it up a certain way for me. As far as extra innings are concerned, listen, I'd be cool with the ties, but I wouldn't be if we're allowing fans back in the stadium for sake of this argument, I wouldn't want to go home as a young 10-year-old growing up in the Northeast and the Yankees tied the Orioles 6-6 and I'm moving on. That would be, I'd want to get into the car and have a win and a loss. But I totally agree. And I have been in that dugout, and JD can attest to this. It starts nickel and diamond past that 12th inning. Everybody's trying to end it with one swing of the bat. And that's why it ends up taking so long, because no one wants to actually put together and manipulate or manufacture a run.
Yeah, I would be in favor of maybe some kind of a hybrid extra inning situation where you play the 10th inning at traditional rules, and then maybe in the 11th inning you put a man on second base to start the inning. And then if you get through 12 innings and nothing has been decided, you call it a tie. And again, this is because of these extreme circumstances. And as we discussed earlier, as we were talking about the different scenarios and what might take place, one thought crossed my mind, and that was Joe West working home plate at 4 o'clock in the afternoon in Phoenix, Arizona, outdoors. How do you think that's going to go over?
One last thing that we would be remiss here on Marquee Sports Network if we didn't mention. If we start the season with no fans, it's basically a television sport. We can move cameras to any part of the ballpark because there should be no restrictions in the stands. We can get some really cool camera angles and, talking about miking up players. There are some things technologically that we can try that may become part of the fabric of the game moving forward.
Yeah, if and when, and we will continue to discuss when baseball will reconvene in 2020, but still to come right here. Well, yesterday we lost a legend, Mr. Tiger, Al Kaline, dead at the age of 85. We'll reflect as soon as Cubs 360, presented by Miller Lite, bounces back. Stick around.
Good segment, guys. Thank you. Good stuff. All right, for this segment,
Embrace
this is
the
just
tie.
Len. Yep, this is just Len and Cole here, guys. Just Len and Cole. We're going to reflect a little bit on K-Line, and then we'll bring you guys back in for the fourth segment and the final one. So, Kevin, just make sure D-Row and JD's their mics are down, okay?
So, coming back on camera real quick, Malik, like it says, and then go to the full screen.
Come back on camera. Then we'll show some VO of K-Line as a player, and then you'll read your full screen, and then just you and Lynn is just going to tee you up. What do you want to get? How do you want to go there, Lynn?
I wouldn't mind reading a little bit of his bio just because there's some really fascinating things. How much are you gonna? What are you teeing me up with, Cole?
I just want as a native Michigander, when you think Al Kaline, what initially comes to mind for you? I mean, we saw some of your tweets.
You got it.
Did you want to? Did you want to go to the full screen? Do you want to do it?
I kind of want to
you do the full.
numbers.
Yeah, you do the full screen, Cole. Just do that, and then let Lynn just take it how he will. That's okay.
I'll
If,
fill in the cracks.
if there's some overlap, that's no problem. And then also too,
Okay,
Cole,
cool.
just keep in mind you're probably going to have time for another follow-up question. All right. So Kevin, just make sure
I will.
Yes, you will have time. Make sure JD and,
Yep.
and D Rose, their mics are down. Okay. This is just Lynn and Cole.
Len, personal interaction. Have you had any with? Did you have any with LK Line?
Yeah, I didn't know him well, but when I was around
Okay.
him, he was unbelievably
Sure.
gracious and generous with his time. Yep.
All right. You good, Kevin? Dusold?
All good.
Okay. Here we go. You good, Cole?
Yep.
Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Back here on Cubs 360, presented by Miller Lite. On Monday was a sad day in the baseball world. We lost Al Kaline at the age of 85 years old due to unknown causes. Now, Kaline spent his entire 22-year career with the Detroit Tigers. He was a lifer. He was a 1968 World Series champ. He had 3,007 hits and was one home run shy of the 400 home run club at 399. And that was only the tip of the iceberg when it came to his accomplishments. He was also an all-star selection in 15 seasons. He played in 18 all-star games. That's because back in the day, some seasons saw multiple Midsummer's Classics. He also had 10 gold gloves on his trophy case, and he was a 1980 Cooperstown inductee, and that was his first year of eligibility. So back here with Len Casper. And Len, we all know that you're a native Michigander. And when it comes to Al Kaline, what's the biggest thing that you're going to miss?
Well, in a lot of ways, Cole, I have Al Kaline to thank for becoming the baseball fan that I did. My dad's favorite player when my dad grew up was Al Kaline, and that's why he was into the Tigers. And my dad made me a Tiger and a baseball fan when I was a kid. Alan Trammell kind of became my Al Kaline, so to speak. And as you mentioned, he was a lifetime Tiger. 67 of his 85 years, he was associated with that organization. Well, the one thing about Al Kaline, he did it all. Won a batting title at age 20, had over 3,000 hits. You mentioned the 10 gold gloves, had a World Series ring in 1968. And how about this? He signed with the Tigers just out of high school and made his major league debut 1 week at age 18 after graduating from high school. Pretty remarkable. Also, for me, I remember Al Kaline, the broadcaster. He and another Hall of Fame player named George Kell made up the television tandem for the Tigers back in the 70s and the 80s. Ernie Harwell, Paul Carey were the radio voices. Sadly, all four are gone. They were the voices of my childhood, and yesterday was a tough day.
Absolutely, Len. Now, when all the greats that were playing in that era, Al Kaline certainly made a name for himself. What was different about Al Kaline as opposed to some of the other guys that we saw throughout Major League Baseball?
Well, as I said, I just think his consistency all the way around. He was a modern player during the golden era. He was a power hitter, the 399 home runs you mentioned. He walked more than he struck out. And a lot of those years were prior to 1969 when everything changed after the year of the pitcher in 1968. The best compliment, though, for Al Kaline is everyone who ever met him or knew him even a little bit said he was one of the most generous, kindest human beings they were ever around. It was really cool to see Justin Verlander, a lot of the current Tigers, and really, former teammates and people who knew Al. The outpouring of support on social media yesterday was pretty impressive.
Yeah, we saw your tweet. It was sincerely heartfelt. A sweetheart of a man, a great player, and one of the TV voices of my childhood. And he was definitely a class for all seasons, an incredible man, and an even better ball player. Al Kaline, gone at 85. More to come right here on Cubs 360, presented by Miller Lite.
Good job, guys.
Thanks.
Hey, Len.
Yep.
Were the Cubs big shifting teams with Madden?
They shifted more than anybody when he got there. And by
Good
last
job,
year, they
Cole.
shifted less than everybody. So he started it with the Rays where he was Mr. Shift, and as the rest of the league shifted, he went the other direction.
Okay, Kevin, we all four guys here, Kevin. Thank you for that, Lynn. That was nice.
Thanks for letting me do that, guys.
Absolutely.
So your traffic here, Cole. You're going to go after an in bump. You're going to have your full screen. You're going to tee up your Miller Lite refreshing take. And we're just going to talk about the Cole's second base options, okay? So we'll go to D-Row first here. We should have about 2.5 minutes of conversation here, okay, guys? So hopefully getting here from everybody. Yeah, let's start D-Row here first as our Cubs infielder, okay?
Cool.
All right, Kevin. Kevin, you good to go?
Yeah, can Mark slide a little to his right. Just center up in the shadow a little bit, please.
Is that better, Kevin?
Yep, thank you.
Thanks, D-Row. All right, here we go, Cole.
Yep.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So that was one of the most memorable moments of David Bodie's big league career. That was that pinch hit walk-off grand slam against the Nats when he was a rookie back in 2018. Now, Bodie, he started at second base on opening day in 2019, and this season he's competing with Jason Kipnis, Nico Horner, and Daniel Descalso for the starting second base gig. That is when the season gets underway. So back here with the guys, Len, JD, and D-Row, and David Bodie, happy 27th birthday. I'm sure there's going to be an adult beverage or two in your future, which brings us to this Miller Lite refreshing take. And the topic is David Bodie should be the everyday second baseman for the Chicago Cubs. D-Row, how do you like his chances so far? What do you think?
I mean, I love his chances. I think you need offense in today's game, and he obviously can swing the bat. And with more consistent playing time is going to come more production. The bottom line for me is, because I dealt with this in 2007 when I signed with the Cubs, I was always a utility man that was going to be asked to play second base on a regular basis. And I know in today's game, and I asked Len before we came on camera how much the Cubs actually shift, that David Bodie might not have to always be the guy turning the double play, but JD can attest to this. You better, as a second baseman, be able to turn a double play in the big leagues behind John Lester, Kyle Hendricks, all these guys that are going to work to get you a double play ground ball. If he can turn that on a regular basis, then I think he's the guy, because I think Nico Horner, with the whole service time, is going to probably have to maybe spend another year in the minor leagues to kind of manipulate that. But if David Bodie can turn the double play on a regular basis, I think that he can help you offensively.
Yeah, and no doubt Bodie's going to get a lot of at-bats at second base. He can play third base. He can play shortstop. You can move him around. He will get, most likely he will see more time at second base than anywhere else. Jason Kipnis was a guy they signed prior to spring training. And I think there's every expectation that Kipnis would get a lot of playing time at second base. So the most likely scenario is some kind of a platoon there. And the other wild card in all this is because if we get back to playing baseball in Arizona as MLB has laid out, rosters are going to look very different. And what is minor league baseball going to look like? So maybe a scenario that would have had Nico Horner playing at AAA baseball now has him part of an expanded 35-man roster and getting some at-bats there, because I don't know what minor league baseball is going to look like at all. But clearly there has to be a number of players available to fill in for injured players, beat-up players, tired players, playing doubleheaders in the heat of Arizona. So maybe the answer is some kind of a taxi squad where you have 8 or 10 extra players with the club, and then only X number of them are activated for each game. But most likely scenario is Kipnis and Bodie share the playing time at second base, and maybe Horner sneaks in there and steals some at bats as well.
Yeah, I agree with JD. I think by the time camp was halted, you were looking at basically a platoon scenario to start the season with Kipnis, the left-handed bat, Bodie from the right side. Absolutely the wild card, guys, is Nico Horner. I think you can throw all of the rules from spring training out the window. I think there's a pretty good chance if we play, Nico Horner will be on the big league roster.
Well, like Ernie Harwell said, it's a pitcher's best friend. And if you want to be the starting second baseman for the Chicago Cubs, like D-Row said, you have to be able to turn two. Well, our time here has come to a close on Cubs 360 presented by Miller Lite. So for Len, JD, and D-Row, I'm Cole Wright. We'll see you next time.